We're here today with David Rowe, professor of law at the University of Miami School of Law in Coral Gables, Florida. Good evening, Professor Rowe.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm fine. Professor Rowe, can you please comment on recent developments concerning the freedom of the press in Jamaica?
Well, there are a few disturbing indications that the very cherished constitutional right of freedom of the press and freedom of speech is being infringed upon. Firstly, we have a situation where News Talk 93, a government-owned but free and critical radio station, is being essentially dressed down or having its hours reduced. And secondly, we have a leading member of parliament criticizing the press and suggesting that the country would be better off without the press. This, I think, is an unhealthy trend, as it is the freedom of the press that guarantees the freedom and the constitutional liberties of all Jamaicans.
What other events have been part of this trend in Jamaica in the last few years?
Well, from time to time, I noted during the Christopher Coke extradition controversy that individuals who were part of the newspaper group that were watching the situation very closely were made subject to threats, serious threats. Some of them were so rattled by the threats that they needed to consult the police.
What kind of implications does this have for the rule of law itself, which has been in somewhat of a delicate condition in Jamaica?
Well, the first step towards lack of constitutional government is the abandonment of the fundamental freedoms. And this effort by the governing regime to stop individuals who have legitimate concerns complaining about this government is consistent with the government's apparent nonchalance about the constitutional rights of Jamaicans.
Do you see less adherence to the so-called Westminster model principles?
Yes, sir.
Can you explain the Westminster model?
The Westminster model is a model that we've inherited from the United Kingdom that essentially gives us a separation of powers between the judiciary, the legislature, and the executive. It is important that the executive is not able to threaten or to intimidate the judiciary, or to threaten and or to intimidate the press. And it is this threatening and this harassment of the press that I consider inconsistent with the Westminster model.
Some have also pointed to the way that the Commission of Inquiry has been formed as also in some way neglecting these principles. Can you comment on that?
Certainly, sir. The fact that the Prime Minister did not consult with the leader of the opposition when selecting the composition of the Board of Inquiry is a point, or points to the fact that the Prime Minister seems not to have regard for the input of the opposition leader in matters of national significance. This is clearly unconstitutional and is contrary to the rule of law. The opposition, the major opposition, should be made aware of all matters of the importance of a case of press freedom. And worse, in a matter of inquiry, which is so critical to our constitutional development and our constitutional balance, for the Prime Minister to act in a manner which is singular and which excludes the opposition's input is contrary to the structure and literal interpretation of the Jamaican Constitution.
Professor Rowe, thank you very much for your time.